All the top Democratic presidential hopefuls seeking to unseat Trump in next year's election have promised to re-engage in the Paris Agreement if they win. Until its formal exit, the United States will continue to participate in negotiations over technical aspects of the agreement, represented by Korea State Department officials. The United States and China, the world's two largest carbon emitters, have recently been leading negotiations of the Paris Rulebook that outlines transparency and reporting rules for signatories.
The United States is going out, while the European Union is reaffirming its commitment to the Paris Climate Agreement. The EU Commission spokeswoman Mina Andreeva is urging the 194 other states to continue their efforts to reduce CO2 emissions.
We regret the US notification to withdraw from the Paris Agreement. We worked side by side with our American friends to build the Paris Agreement in 2015, which is now in force and brings together a whole 194 countries. Even without one of the major emitters of CO2, the world will continue to use the Paris Agreement to take action to reduce the emissions that are having a negative impact on the planet.
And global affairs analyst Mukhtar Dania is joining me on the news for more on this. Many thanks to you, Mukhtar, for joining us on this hour. When you look at this withdrawal by the United States, what does it mean for that country in terms of global politics and influence?
In terms of global politics and influence, Donald Trump is used to being a contrarian. He's used to doing what he thinks is right and not necessarily what the rest of the world wants. So I think in that regard, nothing really changes. I mean, he announced this last year, he campaigned on this, and now he's carried out his promise to withdraw the United States from the Paris Accord. So I don't think it's taken anyone by surprise.
But many experts like yourself believe that this would leave the United States out of decisions in the concert of nations. Do you agree with that?
Not really, because the United States pays the bulk of the bills for the United Nations. And at the end of the day, if the United Nations chooses not to do what the United States wants it to do, the United States will simply withhold some of its funding, like it's done this year. And then bring those who don't come around will be forced to come around if the U.S. wants to use a strong hand to play the geopolitical game.
Do you think this is a good move for the United States?
For the United States' internal interest, yes, this is an amazing move. I mean, the Paris Climate Accord cripples the U.S. economy by putting unrealistic expectations on U.S. industry. Meanwhile, letting countries such as China not have to do anything. China has a 10-year period where they don't have to do anything, literally don't have to do anything. They can pollute as much as they want. Meanwhile, the Paris Climate Accord forced the United States, well, not forced, but made the United States put in place all sorts of provisions which made industries and businesses less efficient by focusing on, for lack of a better term, nebulous goals regarding CO2 emissions.
All right. This will mean that in terms of its economy, there will be no federal stimulus in terms of environmental protection policies. What does this mean for states like California who are committed to environmental protection?
Well, personally, I think California is being run by people who are not in touch with reality. I mean, a lot of what they do there in terms of the environment is all, for lack of a better term, might as well be magic, because it has no bearing to reality. They have unrealistic goals, which have driven a lot of businesses out of California. I mean, you can't regulate everything. There are some things that you just have to allow to happen. California doesn't want that. And for the United States government to subsidize initiatives by California, which have no proven value, in my opinion, has never been a good move. And I think finally, the federal government has come around and taking action by doing the needful, which is withdrawing some of those subsidies.
All right, Global Affairs analyst Mukhtar Dania, thanks for sharing your thoughts with us on this